Spirit showed me lasers coming down from the sky. And I said it was either from a satellite or a drone. If you remember, you can go back to those predictions from when that right before that Lahaina event took place. And I saw a big fire on the coastline in the water. Well, now I see this again, unfortunately, in a different form, in a different place. And this felt just like the other ones. It felt very, very intentional to me. And it's going to continue to flow out, friends, in truth. And do all in due time, I assure you. And people are going to gather. People are going to begin to gather together, and they're going to start calling out the governments and the groups and the NGOs that are, pushing these horrors upon us. I see some type of attacks happening. And I feel like this is a combination of a couple things, friends. I feel like this might have something to do with the immigrants that are staying in hotels. I see some type of attacks coming on cell phone towers. It reminds me of my past predictions where I stated that the Georgia Guidestones would fall. This could also be symbolic if I'm seeing two separate places on fire. This could be very symbolic to something burning in D.C., like D.C.'s on fire. And that could be, again, literal, or it could be even metaphoric. The Spirit said the White House is literal. Now, I feel like New York City's tumbling completely backwards. Likely more so when new leadership's about to take over. And I see people actually beginning to flee the Big Apple in large numbers. I also feel a huge chunk of New York City maybe one of these blackouts that are coming, one of these 3 big blackouts that are coming. And this may even be storm related, of course, but to knock out the whole city, or at least, that's what they're going to tell us. Oh, it was the storm. I also feel that our friends over there in Paris, France, or some other city in France will also go dark. Dark again, so it would likely be the same area that went dark in the past. Friends, the month of August is upon us. And if you think July was intense, well, hold on tight, because we are still flowing through this very intense energy and changes on the planet. We're currently just over the hump of Mercury's retrograde, which begins to start movement again on August 11th and 12th. And that pesky post-shadow of that Mercury retrograde is going to linger till the 25th of August. So we are still in it, friends. We are stepping into, once again, this very intense window of time. The date's August 7th through August 14th, with even a stronger influence and impacts on the dates August 8th, August 9th, and August 11th. Dates to look very closely at, friends, for major world events, and even another massive earthquake taking place. The amount of 4.5 and higher earthquakes in the past few weeks has been absolutely off the charts. Now, it is starting to die out a little bit, but there were more than 500, and that is an insane increase from the normal 75 to 85 per week that are 4.5 or higher. So to be over 500, now it's back down into the 300s now, but still, that is just a crazy amount. And over the next week, we're going to see more magnitudes of these earthquakes begin to increase more and more over the next few weeks and over the next few months. And I feel that there's a massive quake that is coming upwards of 9.0 or more. If not in the coming weeks, certainly by the end of 2025 and when 2025 comes to a close. November is going to be another month to watch very, very closely, friends. Very closely. My past prediction, going back a couple years ago, I'm seeing this explosion beneath the Pacific. That is looking more and more plausible in the past few weeks. And now, with this super uptick of earthquakes, 4.5 or higher, and what's been going on in Russia with the volcanoes erupting, the large 8.0 higher earthquake that happened there, all right near that area of the Pacific that I pointed to in the past. Remember, friends, too, we are also still flowing through that 9 universal year of endings, death of cycles, which could also represent humanitarian efforts and humanitarian aid. We've seen some of that attempts happening in places like Gaza, some of the flooded regions with humanitarian aid going in, but I feel something much larger. Much, much larger is on the horizon, friends. Much, much larger. And I know you're all feeling it too. Everybody's starting to feel it now. And it's not just in the way of Earth events, but just major things that are coming our way. Remember, this all does lead in the long run to a period of healing and a period of peace on the planet. But it's just this really rough road that we got to go down. Now, I strongly feel that there will be some type of a massive Earth shift event that's going to cause wide devastation to many coastlines and a large city, perhaps Tokyo, Japan. I see this coming disaster bringing about issues around water, clean water, and even toxins that are in the water. It kind of reminded me of the 2011 earthquake and the toxicity that happened with Fukushima nuclear plant that leaked into the ocean and so forth. So it kind of reminded me of that. Not that it's necessarily nuclear, I would say that it's more just toxic, something toxic with the waters. Now, recently, I felt that there was going to be some type of massive gathering of musicians to put on some type of a large benefit concert. This reminded me of the Live Aid going back to July of 1985. This was a global concert, if you recall, and an effort to feed the hungry people in Ethiopia. So my feeling here around this could be also related to maybe feeding the hungry, some type of major concert that feeds the hungry. And I wouldn't be surprised at all to see even a smaller gathering of people to raise money specifically for aid in Gaza. Now, back to the earthquakes. I also feel a massive earthquake is going to hit Turkey and shake parts of Egypt. At some point, the United States is going to be hit very hard, and that might not be till sometime next year, perhaps an 8.0 or higher. And this is going to be this feels like a huge surprise to me. Because, folks on the East Coast, like California, are expecting something big. Even people on the West Coast, East Coast, both kind of have this feeling or concerns or worries that they're going to get it. This feels like a surprise to me, friends. And it's towards the Midwest, and I feel that this may erupt first before all the rest, as far as big earthquakes in the United States are concerned. And where I point it to in recent past predictions would be right along the Mississippi River. So Memphis, Tennessee, Alabama, Oklahoma, and around all those areas of the United States. And again, it feels like a really big surprise to me. And I don't have any timeline on any of these events, but I do feel that we're going to be seeing a ton of Earth shift activity between now and 2029. And 2026 is also going to be really, really intense. So, we're just flowing through it. Just flowing through it, friends. Remember the time that Spirit gave us, the timelines, 2025 to 2032. And I feel like there's going to be some type of divide in the timelines between 2029 and 2030. And it's also when I feel that we need to be most concerned 2029 to 2030 when it comes to outbreaks or another pandemic of sorts taking place. 2029 is a 4 universal year in numerology. That is exactly what 2020 was. And 4 vibration. We all know what happened in 2020. The 4 vibration can definitely bring about problems, concerns, and focus on illness and disease. Now, I feel that the East Coast of the United States will continue to get hit with smaller quakes from New York down to the Carolinas. The East Coast needs to be more concerned, in my opinion and feelings, of the floods and the major snow and ice storms that are coming in the wintertime and even in the fall with major floods and such. So again, we are only just stepping into this. August is intense, and November is going to be just as intense as July and August have been. It's going to be really interesting. By the way, today I am using natural lighting because it's awfully sunny out and very hot, and I just didn't put on my light. So I hope this lighting suffices for you all. Now, with the energies of August and even moving into September, continuing to intensify, this is actually waking people up, friends, on new levels and amazing levels, reaching new levels of consciousness. Folks are becoming more and more aware of these corrupted systems. The inflow of immigrants, the consistent inflation, which is only just going to bring up a lot more emotions for folks across the globe. Big time. It's already happening. People are getting frustrated. Some people are getting desperate, especially when it comes to food and such. So therefore, we are going to see once again an influx of protests around the globe. Unfortunate protests that turn violent, of course, especially in places where we have already been seeing such big protests. The United Kingdom, Ireland, Angola, Israel, and I even see parts of India rising up. And I feel something is happening with protests also in Russia. But of course, I feel that they're going to, of course, quickly shut down the protests in Russia. But we will get to see a glimpse of it starting to rise up. Lots of problems for Russia. And even India and Pakistan, I feel like there's going to be more conflict between them. I see some type of an attack happening in India, which will give India the reason to go in and start bombing Pakistan once again. Now, Washington, D.C. and Arlington, Virginia, both came to me very, very strongly. And I feel like this is not just in the way or related to protests happening in D.C., but I feel something really big is coming to that area. Perhaps some type of an attack of sorts, along with maybe a pow-pow type of an event taking place. And I also feel and see visions of fire and smoke at the White House. And I saw this years ago, and they did end up having a small fire, and it was small. I only saw a little smoke billowing out a window in the past. But this looks much larger, friends. And I felt this sense of panic, like we got to get out of here kind of panic. So I'm not saying this is happening in August. It could be any time in the next year, maybe a little bit further out. But I feel like this is coming. It might even come in November, actually. November or the latter part of 2025. And that whole window of time from October to December, it's going to be really, really intense, friends. Especially within the United States and really across the globe. But lots of stuff's going to be happening in the United States. I see some type of hearings that are coming. We know about the Clintons, and they're supposed to do depositions or what have you. If you recall, I had visions of that in the past. Visions of that taking place. And now we see them being subpoenaed. So what's going to happen? Crazy stuff. We're going to see a lot of resignations in the United States coming up too, especially in those months between, say, October and November. Like people like, say, maybe even Pam Bondi stepping out or being pushed out. Lots of people in charge, whether they are the three-letter agencies. Trump's going to be on this firing spree coming up in the very near future. I see this dark vapor cloud floating across Africa. And I saw something like this in the past, but I did not really know how to actually interpret that. And it doesn't necessarily feel like a storm per se, although it could be a sign of such, of course, big cloud over there. But this felt more to me like this dark energy that welcomes in some type of chaos, conflict, protesting. And I see this vapor or cloud. It's covering like the southern tip, say from Angola all the way down to South Africa. It's like that whole southern tip where I saw this black cloud going across. I don't know how to interpret that exactly. Could also be a combination of things, storm clouds and just dark energy causing lots of issues in that area. Now, South Africa already has their hands full. And I'm sure our friends in South Africa, we got a lot of them in the tribe here, will agree. When it comes to the corruption and the crazy weather that's been happening, excuse me, and this is going to continue. I see large flooding events in the southern part of South Africa, and I see people coming together to fight the corrupt government. Someone new, this is hopeful for our South African friends, somebody new is coming in the future. I don't know how far in the future, but someone with a much brighter vision. And they're going to try to stop this person, and stop them is what Spirit said. So being that stop them, and they won't succeed in stopping them, I feel like this is a team, like a power couple, a male and a female, in their attempt to bring balance and more balance to South Africa. They may not see this until 2026, but I do feel like some changes are coming there that will be positive in the long run. Now, on the subject of Africa, but on a different subject, of course, I feel that some type of concerning outbreak or outbreak concerns in and around the Congo. And I feel that some type of aid is going to be sent there to assist, and some type of a quarantine, temporary quarantine in that area as well. This kind of makes me feel that we will be witnessing like very strange outbreaks. Very strange outbreaks, and we see that happening with the flesh-eating bacteria that's happening in the southern part of the United States from Louisiana down to Florida. When I see other types of outbreaks and plagues and diseases, and diseases that were once thought to be eradicated, like we see polio coming back. I do not have any fear around this, so, many people may feel fear around this. I feel this is actually a part of the changes in the process for humanity and Mother Earth. It's part of a much larger collective healing, friends, for all of us. And I also see something going on when it comes to our friends in India with an illness breakout. This could actually be related to India being hit directly with a very serious flu season, perhaps a much stronger and much more contagious flu. I also saw a report this morning that over in China, they're spraying chemicals all throughout. It has something to do with, I believe, if I remember correctly, an elephant mosquito causing a major outbreak. Interesting, because if we go back to my past predictions, I talked about mosquito-borne illnesses and diseases spreading. And we know about Gates and Friends and how they released all those mosquitoes down in Florida and Texas. And then all of a sudden, Florida and Texas had this whole uptick in mosquito-borne illnesses. No coincidence there. So much for his supposed idea working out. So we just need to be mindful of our health, not to be in fear about it, and know that this is a bigger part of the collective healing that will happen over the next 5 to 7 years. In past visions, I saw a city in the dark. Soon after, we all know what happened in Spain and in France, going completely dark. Well, this vision that I just had is much different, as it feels to me to be it's nighttime when this happens, or at least it goes into the nighttime where the entire city is completely dark. And Spirit says 3 in all. 3 in all. So I'm not sure if that's 3 cities in all. That would make sense, actually. 3 in all. Or maybe 3 large blackouts in all. Not sure. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I also feel a huge chunk of New York City may be one of these blackouts that are coming. One of these 3 big blackouts that are coming. And this may even be storm related, of course. But to knock out the whole city, or at least, that's what they're going to tell us. Oh, it was the storm. I also feel that our friends over there in Paris, France, or some other city in France, will also go dark. Dark again, so it would likely be the same area that went dark in the past. Now, when it comes to the 3rd, it's just simply a guess. If it's part of the 3, I don't know. But I do believe that Moscow, Russia, is going to have some issues with their power going out and their city going dark, or at least parts of their city. And I'm not saying that this is all happening in the month of August, but more between now and, say, the end of this year, and even into early January and February. Another window of time for us all to watch when it comes to major outages and blackouts would be late October into the month of November of this year, 2025. November being the most strongest impact when it comes to energy and outages. And I feel something around the holidays as well. A holiday like Christmas time holiday, between Christmas and New Year's. And this feels more like it's cyber attack related to me. So therefore, speaking of cyber attacks, I feel cyber attacks are coming when it comes to the banking systems, especially banking apps. So if you use a banking app, I go directly on the banking website, but even then, there'll be hacks and cyber attacks, and this includes crypto apps as well, friends, or crypto platforms. So a lot of people like to keep it in a cold wallet. That's probably a good idea if you have crypto. And I feel there is going to be several cases where people's money just suddenly disappears, whether it's from the banks or from crypto. And I also feel like we're also going to hear of this corruption around the meme coin or some other type of crypto, which reminds me of the whole Sam Bankman-Fried thing that happened. If I got that name right, I'm pretty sure I did. The theft of crypto, which was something I predicted and told people to pull their money out of. People didn't listen, and look what happened. And that was a mess. And folks lost millions of dollars. So make sure, again, you protect yourselves, friends, and protect your money. Buy physical assets, silver, gold, coins, artwork, physical things, real estate, and so forth. Another dire warning for folks in New York. Spirit showed me this vision, or multiple visions actually, of what looked like this apocalyptic storm sweeping through, and gave me a little bit of deja vu, so I believe I had this vision in the past. Might have been a few years ago. Some things, again, take a few years to come into fruition. But this came in really strong, and I felt this strong feeling, kind of like my ChatGPT chat that we had, of Babylon falling. That's what it felt like me, Babylon falling. You know, the modern day Babylon, of course, which is connected to the United States, and New York City would be the hub of all of that, of course. Now, I feel like New York City's tumbling completely backwards, likely more so when new leadership's about to take over. And I see people actually beginning to flee the Big Apple in large numbers for, likely two reasons. One, due to the takeover of this government and the changes in power that are going to bring the city down to its knees. And the second being folks evacuating due to severe weather and changes and shifts in the weather and climate that are affecting New York and New York City directly. Now, New York is going to be hit with unprecedented storm systems. That would include likely Jersey and along that coastline there, but especially New York City. And it's going to be like one flood after another. Subways so flooded that I saw a vision of them having to go in and pump the water out of the subway system and pumping water out of sewers and such. So that was interesting. First time I had a vision like that. I also see tunnels, like tunnels, like for example, the Holland Tunnel in New York. Is that the Holland? I think that's the Holland. Lots of tunnels over there being filled with water. Not necessarily collapsing, but I just see like really dangerous to pass through for people that are wanting to escape. And Spirit says, if you're not out before the coming storms, then you better bunker down in place. Do not attempt to leave because you might come to that tunnel and it might be flooded and there's no way in and then you can't turn around because of the traffic. Now, I also see the the Statue of Liberty swaying back and forth in the wind. I see lightning coming down and striking the Statue of Liberty in my vision. And then I saw the arm that holds the torch falling off in my vision, and it fell down below to the stormy waters, which is interesting because the Statue of Liberty is on an island. So if the torch and hand fell off the statue, it would fall down onto the island and maybe roll into the water. That's how I would expect it. But what I saw was just raging waters, like the island wasn't even there. Like the Statue of Liberty is poking out of the water. Now, this could also be, of course, metaphoric. Doesn't necessarily mean that, Liberty, is going to lose her torch. This could be, more likely New York not only being in for, a rough time and a really long, rough ride, but even, I would say, in the winter months. I feel this pounding coming to the Big Apple. So now, metaphorically, the torch falling. Let's look at that for a second. That could go back to blackouts. Blackout of New York City, if Spirit's showing me the lightning striking. And it doesn't have to be storm-related. The lightning could be some type of dew attack, for example, or some other type of attack. Sometimes Spirit shows me visions that are literal and play out exactly the way I see them. And then sometimes Spirit shows me visions that are metaphoric. I took the Statue of Liberty as being more symbolic or having some deep symbolic meaning in it. So the arm, the torch falling into the rough waters would also say rough seas are ahead for New York City. I would also say, again, this would make sense to the flooding and things that I see. But I feel like there's a much deeper meaning to this, don't you, y'all? Much deeper meaning. So let me know what you think that deeper meaning may be in the comments down below. Now, even when the winter months come along, I feel that there's going to be a pounding coming to the Big Apple. I feel major storms are coming to that area. And I know they don't get much snow or ice anymore, but I wouldn't hold on to that for this coming season. So beware, New Yorkers. Be safe. Don't be scared. Be prepared. Now that it's Leo season, the sign of fire, of course, we're in fire season, and fire, of course, is already a huge concern and threat. Especially knowing deep down in my heart, And I know you feel this too, friends, that a majority of these fires are being orchestrated in some form or another. Whether it be those in Canada, which I have no doubt the ones in Canada are, that's all part of their plan over there in Canada, which is part of a big agenda, the agenda to push us out of the rural areas and push people into the cities. Soon to be smart city surveillance states. And Canada is going to continue to push their fire agenda against Canadian citizens. Did you see what they just did in Canada? They just banned people from going into the woods for a walk or to go fishing. This is the plan. This is what they want to do. This is part of the World Economic Forum's agenda, friends, and the United Nations, to turn parts of the globe into areas where humans aren't allowed to go anymore and pushing us all into smaller areas. So even where I live, that's on the map for their map of where you're not allowed to go in the future. Of course, the global elite will be able to go in their little private planes wherever the heck they want. Now, that's not going to play out. They might partially get their way, I assure you. In the end, friends, people are going to awaken to this. People are going to be saying no. People will be fleeing to their own places, and we will build new communities in the future, and it will lead to good. I assure you, it's just fighting these devils on the process. In Canada, $25,000 fine for hiking in the woods? Oh, but you can go to a campground where fires often, I know out here, a lot of times it's at the campgrounds and people at campgrounds, careless fires that cause big fires. Isn't that interesting? So they're doing that on purpose, Canada. They're pushing you out of the rural areas, setting it ablaze. So I see a large, in Canada still, I see this large area of native land. I know they got not a lot of native land like we do out here in the West, but I see a large area of native land burning and native people being forced to flee. So I don't know if that's happening. I don't know what's happening in Canada, but that's the feeling I got. Now, I also see something that I saw in the past that sadly became a reality in Lahaina, Hawaii. Now, you all remember that. In my visions, I saw it being set and everything, exactly the way we know it happened. Well, I see another massive wildfire along a coastline. And that's what I said in past predictions. I see major fire on the water. And then, soon after it was Lahaina, sadly. I also saw in that vision, Spirit showed me lasers coming down from the sky. And I said it was either from a satellite or a drone. If you remember, you can go back to those predictions from when right before that Lahaina event took place. And I saw a big fire on the coastline in the water. Well, now I see this again, unfortunately, in a different form, in a different place. And this felt just like the other ones. It felt very, very intentional to me, just like Lahaina, Canada, and Palisades. So this is somewhere along the coastline in the water. And I feel like we'll see similarities in the aspect of like boats being burned. How did the boats burn all the way out at sea in Hawaii? Things that make you go, right? We'll see something like that again. And of course we'll see all the surviving stuff that's blue. That should be a sure sign of this big fire. Now, I wasn't sure where. Spirit didn't direct me where. I just had the vision. The whole same feelings as Lahaina, except it's not Hawaii, it's somewhere else, says the spirits. Could be along the coast of, say, Chile. Could be right, again, somewhere along the coast of west coast of the United States, but not necessarily California. Because, they're going to continue to hit California. California's astrology does not look good for the coming years. So I'm not sure, again, where it is at all. Sadly, Lahaina is burning right now again. Did you know that? Sad. And I guarantee you, Oprah's house, Oprah and friends' homes are going to be safe once again. This coming wildfire on the water that I see, that's going to be fed with high winds like we saw in the past, and they'll blame it on the high winds because their purpose, again, it's very orchestrated, sadly. We just need to hold the people in the light and hold in the light that the truth comes out, and we catch these people on film doing these events. And if you happen to be in an area experiencing high winds along the coast, especially, just be mindful. I know last time we had high winds here, I got a little bit overly mindful. Kind of freaked me out a little bit, because it's all it takes, whipping right up the canyon, even though I know I'm safe where I'm at. But still. So I feel that these winds are blowing southeastern. For some reason, it felt like they were blowing southeastern to me. more and more folks are going to be catching on when it comes to, again, the globalists using fire against us. And more evidence and proof is going to come about and how these fires are actually igniting. And it's going to continue to flow out, friends, in truth. And do all in due time, I assure you. And people are going to gather. People are going to begin to gather together, and they're going to start calling out the governments and the groups and the NGOs that are, pushing these horrors upon us. Because that's what they are. For the horrors that they bestow upon innocent citizens. So remember, friends, united is the only way to defeat these monsters. United we be. I see some type of attacks coming on cell phone towers. It reminds me of my past predictions where I stated that the Georgia Guidestones would fall. I don't know anybody else that said that, but remember, it was during a Tuesday show where Spirit said it, and it just was random. I was like, Spirit says the Georgia Guidestones will fall. And 2 months later, someone blew them up, if you remember. So being I get that same feeling and similarities, I can only take this as maybe a sign that someone is going to use explosives and other means to bring down several cell phone towers. That's what I got out of it. Now, this is actually meant, my feeling around it was this is actually meant to alert the people of the dangers around these towers and the actual truth behind them as well, because it's a big old lie around them too, especially what they told us about the, five grade systems. It's all full of deception, friends. These deceptions must be revealed, and they will be revealed in the coming years. Those towers are toxic, more toxic than we realize, putting off frequencies and energies that you're not aware of, that change people's behavior, change people's attitudes. Not good. Now, over there in the UK, I believe it is, citizens are they're already cutting down and destroying surveillance camera systems along the roadways and all, because they're becoming a surveillance state there as well. So as a majority of us are tired of being recorded. I don't know about you, I'm just tired of it. They just put license plate readers through Sedona. Why? I don't need you knowing where I'm going. That's none of your business. So much for the freedom of our rights, right? So track everything. Now, of course, they're going to integrate face recognition into these systems. They probably already have. And before you folks realize it, they're going to be living like they do in China, in this communist surveillance state of imprisonment. I just also saw, and I don't know if it's true, but it goes back to past predictions where I told you they're going to make you have an ID, a special digital ID. And apparently, this was in the comments, I haven't looked into it yet, that they're doing this in Australia right now, forcing them to have a digital ID to access the internet and such. Interesting enough. Now and then, hackers will still get beyond that. They'll tell you that they want to do away with the physical banking system, the physical money, because it'll be safer for you. Now, it'll be safer for robbers and thieves because they won't have to go in with pals into banks and steal money. They can just go right on their computer at home in their underwear and hack your account. So, no, it's just crazy to me. So, surveillance state, we got to fight that, friends. And apparently people are going to start fighting that really soon. Speaking of people being fed up with things, in my 2025 predictions, I spoke about people rising up in protests and protests turning sour. Visions of rioting in cities, and I also saw visions of cities on fire pretty badly, actually. Now, we see this on a smaller scale so far when it comes to places like Angola, which has just had big riots because they had a 33% increase in their fuel. We see this in Ireland over the immigrant issue, and United Kingdom as well, and several others. This is going to get really serious, friends, as we step into this latter part of the year, especially from October to December. People are getting fed up, and especially people who feel like their cultures are being destroyed, which they are. Like, that's what they're doing in Irish. Did you know the percentage of immigrants compared to the percentage of people that are there is crazy? It's a higher percentage of immigrants that live there in all these places now. Not only that, did you see all the mayors that all these cities in Europe, especially throughout England and all their mayors and all their leaders are Muslim? Isn't that interesting? It's like a takeover, kind of like Dearborn, Michigan. and other places. This is going to become a problem. I predicted this probably 15 years ago where I said that they were going to spread out and take over. Well, they're doing it, friends. They're doing it. Whether they realize they're doing it or not, they are. So I see something really big, again, happening in France, mainly Paris, with protests and angry mobs of people taken to the streets. And this will, again, happen in the United States as well. I feel this could be more in 2026 when it comes to the United States. Now, Canadians, of course, certainly need to step up to the plate, y'all. You need to step up to the plate, especially after this new law. You can't go into the woods. It's ridiculous. And I understand. It's understandable fear to do so after what they did to the truckers, standing up for their rights. But unity, we got to stand up, friends. And somehow I feel that it's actually going to be the native people in Canada that really begin to gather up, folks, and gather together. For large protests. But, of course, you got to be very aware, especially in Canada, that government will send in the troops and attempt to shut down the people. That's what they do. But I feel somehow they're going to fail, the government there in Canada, with shutting things down. In the coming year, it would be, as if every city on earth, when it comes to protests, is rising up in protests. Like every city. It's going to be interesting, friends. Really, really interesting. And we need this, friends. We need this. We need to unite. We need to fight against the globalist communist agenda. Because it's in their writings. They've been putting it in our face for years now. People need to wake up and start listening. And again, taking action. Cuba just popped into my mind. Cuba. So I feel that there's so much stress and tensions that are going to hit the Cuban people. Multiple things, from severe flooding of their streets, long-term power outages, and part of the island being completely submerged in water, which will eventually recede, of course. But I see part of the island in Cuba being submerged in water. I also feel like something's happening with their leadership in Cuba. Not sure what, but I see some problems with their leadership. I also see some type of military movement in Cuba, but it didn't feel concerning to me. Felt like a threat, but not concerning. Like they were trying to make it look concerning, but it didn't feel concerning to me. And I see changes of power that could actually be positive change for the people of Cuba. So eyes on Cuba, everybody. And back to France, because I feel like when it comes to France, I feel this is I felt this in the past, actually. And those feelings are starting to get really, really stronger and stronger. And I feel an inside attack is being orchestrated for France. Something from the inside. Now, I felt that for Israel a couple years ago, and we all know what happened on October 7th date. Now, I see so much fire. Like, so much fire as if literally a firebomb was ignited in Paris. Now, I saw fires in Paris before, especially around the Eiffel Tower. And I'm not clear if this is some type of an attack that is somehow backed by Russia and China. That's kind of what it feels like to me. This is very possible, of course, to be the case here. And I feel like there's going to be a lot of resignations that are going to follow after this attack and this event and whatever's burning in France, especially in Paris. Resignations. Maybe it'll be Macron. We'll have to wait and see. I feel that Texas, as I stated in the past, is a targeted state. Targeted by who, you ask? I'm sure you are. Well, likely the globalists, of course. Now, remember my visions a few years back? A few years back, I saw a vision of a star falling off the American flag. Now, this is looking more and more like this will end up being Texas. I mean, look what's happening in Texas right now. So I just wanted to mention that. And I'm not saying it's happening soon or right this year, but definitely there's going to be a breakup of the unions in states. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Now, I feel fire attacks are coming to Texas. Like I saw a little earlier, I talked to you, especially where areas where the cattle roam. That's what Spirit showed me, areas where the cattle roam. That is so sorry. That's an attack on our food again. Now, fires along the borders of Texas. I don't know which borders, but I felt fires along the borders. And then Spirit kept, maybe along the border of Mexico too, actually. But Spirit clearly showed me in this vision with Texas, the beams of light and energy coming down from the sky, igniting these fires in Texas. So I would expect that might be coming this month in August. And I feel, as I did earlier, that this is very well orchestrated, friends, and ignite it during strange high winds. So friends in Texas, beware, especially if there's high winds and especially where the cattle roam. And I think cattle roam all over Texas, but I'm not sure. But I'm sure there's certain areas. Now, Texas is also going to get hit hard with more serious floods, evacuations, and part of a city completely submerged in water. That may be Houston. Houston comes to mind. Now, speaking of city in the water, I see this large city, at least two, inundated by water. Like literally the streets become rivers and creeks. Boats going into the city to rescue folks that are stuck. So all kinds of like rafts, people trying to go in. It's look like a city. Not like a little town, but a city. And now Spirit tells me many cities are going to be submerged. The Middle East especially. The Middle East, Texas, New York, parts of Australia, United Kingdom, throughout India, and of course China. So lots still happening when it comes to the climate. Now, as far as the states, as far as the states leaving the Union and stars falling off the flag, this is basically a process that Spirit tells me is already happening on a small scale that we're just not seeing clearly. And in the coming years, many states are going to wish to pull out or separate from the Union in some form or another. And they will wish that it'll be kind of like other states will unite with each other. Like their next door neighboring states will unite to create something kind of new. Maybe even coming together as some other separate union. And this is over the next, I'd say, 5 years. And in the long run, I do feel like this will be positive. It will be, it'll be fine. Friends, it'll be fine when we reach 2032 and beyond. It's just this window that we're in right now. 2025 to 2032. I did a video on it back in 2017. Warning of this window of time. And that's going to bring the biggest changes to the earth, to humanity, to our countries, and, again, to Mother Earth herself. This is what needs to happen as a collective to bring out the truth, to awaken the people, and to, put us in that higher vibration. Something really to look forward to, not to fear at all. The fall of leaders and changes in power is something that I've stated, going back to my 2025 predictions and forecasts. I stated that we were going to be seeing this on a really large scale, and that's rung pretty loudly with so many people in power, from leaders to CEOs to people in charge beginning to either exit, their positions or to even exit this earth plane. Look at it on last Tuesday's show, I brought up all the millionaires and billionaires that are beginning to fall. Well, I feel we are going to see changes in power. For our friends in South Africa, I feel an attempt is going to be made on the current leader of South Africa. A successful attempt. It feels like it will be a successful attempt. And I don't mean if that's to take him out of this earth plane or take him out of that position. And I cannot help to feel that stronger, bigger, something stronger and bigger is behind this. Like, for example, a 3-letter agency. Just a thought. We'll have to see. I also see changes of power happening throughout the Middle East. I feel Netanyahu's time is about to expire by 2026. I see changes of power in Iran. Of course, that's what they want anyway. And I also feel like there's going to be this sudden passing related to Saudi Arabia. I believe this is going to be perhaps the Saudi prince. It'll be very unexpected and shocking. And in this case, I feel like there's a poisoning that happens. A poisoning. Someone's going to poison the Saudi prince. Interesting. Or somebody within Saudi Arabia that's high up and important. I would think it would be the prince would be the most highest up and most important, I would imagine. Speaking of high up and important, let's talk about supreme justices. injustices across the globe. We are going to see. Remember I talked about, this popped in my brain too. Remember I talked about like people in the United States Senate and parliaments walking out. We see that just happened in Texas. We've seen the Democrats walk out of the state or step out of the state. We're going to see this on a bigger level across the globe where different people are going to step out. They're going to walk out of there angry, trying to prove a point, trying, bring up certain things. We're going to see this with justice systems. We're going to see more judges being called out for their corruption and being paid off to put people behind bars because a lot of these prisons are, corporations, not governments, but corporations that make money because the government pays them. So we're going to see that corruption come out, especially here in the United States with certain judges pushing people into, behind bars. We're going to see justice in the supreme justices. I feel like a supreme justice is about to fall. I wouldn't be surprised if somehow or another they take one out, make it look like a heart attack. And I believe in the long run, there's going to be a big change to the justice system here in the United States. Hopefully for the better. Hopefully for the better. So big changes in power when it even comes to justices, justice systems, political structures, parliament, senates, and people walking out and getting frustrated saying, we're not doing this. So it'll be really interesting. You know what else is still interesting? We're still talking about those Epstein files now, aren't we? A lot of shadiness around that. And I told you new people were going to step forward with information. That's happening. New people are stepping forward with more information. Now, when it comes to Ghislaine Maxwell, she's going to lie through her teeth, of course, to get herself out of there. That's what's happening with her. And I don't feel like she will fulfill her full term or her full sentence, we would say. I feel like she's getting off light and then disappearing and going right back to work. As far as Jeffrey is concerned, I've said this before, and people argued with me in the comments, oh, somebody else said this. Well, I don't care what other people say. I'm telling you what my guides and my intuition say, and that is that man's still alive. I said it right after it happened. I'm like, they got him out of there. And that'll come out too. That truth will come out. I don't know when. It could be 5 years from now, but we'll find out the truth about all this. There's so many people interweaved into that web of darkness. So many more whistleblowers. I remember what Spirit said a while back. There's video. They said there was, and then they say there's not. Oh, yeah, there's video. Tons of video. There's even video of the Clintons, says the Spirits. Oh, I'd like to see that. We'd all like to see that one, huh? There's video of Obama and Michelle. That would reveal a ton of truth. Interesting. Well, we know that truth. Well, most of us do. Who else, Spirit? So many videos, says the Spirit. So many videos. And remember, Spirit told us that somebody has them. They're on the down low. It's almost like somebody made copies of it or downloaded it and, have a secret copy of it. So we have to hold in the light that comes out. The current administration says it's, the Obama administration did it. If they all did it, they would have brought the files out a long time ago. They're all in on it, friends. I don't know how I can't stress that enough to you. Because otherwise Biden would have brought it out if it was all, Trump was all in on it, and vice versa. No, they're all part of it in some form or another. I'm not saying they're all, creepy PEs, if you know what I mean, PDs, but they're all in it in some form or another. And we will find out that truth. It's going to be really, really interesting. And I see hearings around this. And I told you in the past with the Clintons, I told you I saw Hillary Clinton testifying like she had to do with Benghazi back in the day. I saw a visual of that. And she was just subpoenaed. She's going to try to get out of that subpoena, of course. I don't think she will. But the other thing is those hearings are going to be private. Of course they are. They need to be public. We need to hold in the light that this is public, that these people really need to be held accountable instead of getting off and getting off. And Spirit says the karma, they're not getting out of the karmic aspect. So the karmic aspect, and whatever that karma is, that's their karma, not for us to need or worry about. But a lot more coming out with that. A lot more truth coming out around the Obamas, about the Clintons, and even the Trump family. And even the Bushes. They said, oh, don't forget the Bushes. They're the worst of them all, says the Spirits. All right. That'll be interesting to see how all this plays out. So hold on tight. I see some type of attacks happening And I feel like this is a combination of a couple things, friends. I feel like this might have something to do with the immigrants that are staying in hotels. That in some countries, they'll call them the illegals. The government's paying for all this out of our tax money, putting them all up. I don't know if that's happening in the United States anymore, but I know it's happening in other countries. And people are going to get fed up. And I feel like there's some type of attack on a hotel and even fires on hotels. Some of this related to the immigrant thing. Now, I wouldn't say I'd be blaming the citizens for that either. I would say that this may be something that's part of an orchestrated plan in order to cause more of a divide and to make the local people look like bad people. So don't fall for whatever you hear or see. The other attacks I feel like there's something coming, and I said this in the past, but it's ringing loud again, some type of attacks on Trump properties in other countries more than the United States. Trump properties, Trump hotels. Especially something happening in the Middle East. I don't know what he owns in the Middle East. Probably a lot. I'm not sure. But something over there. So that's a concern. And then I see some type of a hostage situation, somewhat of a hostage situation, happening in a hotel. I don't know where I'm at. Somewhere in Africa. I know Africa's a big continent, but it feels like I may be over there somewhere. Not sure. But something to watch. Now, this shouldn't at all stop you from staying in hotels. Because, again, as long as you know you're safe and you're always mindful, you will be. So never let any of this prevent you from enjoying your life, traveling, and doing things you love the most. We already know that President Trump's health is not in the best of place. With his swollen ankles, there's something going on in his abdominal area that Spirit shows me. I think that could be related to either his kidneys or liver. I'm not a doctor, but I'm pulled to that area. And, of course, I see a lot of buildup around his heart and a lot of things going on there. So he's going to have continued health issues, and pretty soon those health issues in the next year won't be able to be hidden so well. Of course, they don't tell us everything anyway. And I do see something happening around one of his family members' health, or something tragic happening around a family member. I'm not sure what family member it is, but I feel like something tragic, perhaps even a funeral of some sort, revolved around one of his family members. And this would be a big deal because now I do see a vision of him at this funeral, going into this funeral. I don't see cameras in the funeral. I see somebody going in. I see him going in, I mean. So I'm not sure what that's related to. I'm not saying this is in August either, but I do see things with his health. And for those that are new here, back in 2016, I said he would serve 2 terms and not make it through his second term and would pass in the 3rd year of his second term. That still rings loudly to me. Spirit hasn't told me anything different. So that would actually be 2027. 3 years. That would be his 3 years, second term, 3rd year. So we'll have to see how that plays out. And then I also said, and this pops in my mind, is I said that there'd be some kind of loss around the Clintons as well. And I do know that Bill and Hillary are both in their 9th year of endings death of cycles. So nothing would surprise me. And Bill isn't looking too good lately. And I wouldn't doubt, with all the stress of subpoenas and all, that it ends up causing a heart attack to Mr. Bill Clinton. Wish them the best, whether you like them or not, because wishing people the best always comes back to you. The other thing I see is a couple things that came to mind was Disney. Disney as a corporation, not necessarily like Disney World or Disneyland, but something big with Disney. And Disney World's going to have its problems. This reminds me, I had a vision, I think it was last year, of some type of wildfire near Disney World and a big fire down in Florida. So that just popped in my brain. And I remember I made that prediction last year, and we haven't seen that happen. And hopefully we don't. Got lots of family and friends in Florida. But yeah, that just came to my mind. But I feel like Disney is going to be under a lot of scrutiny in the near future. A lot. And I feel like they deserve it too. Lots of secrets within that corporation. Very dark, creepy secrets. Now, another thing that came to my mind were 2 people. Just randomly. One that I would never think of too. Paul Simon. I actually had to go look. He popped in my mind. I'm like, I felt like he was going to pass away. I'm like, didn't he die already? I thought he did already. I had to go look it up. And now I forget what year he is in. I think he is in his 9th year. So Paul Simon came to my mind. And again, that's not even somebody I would even think of, unless I was listening to a Paul Simon song, which I haven't heard in a long time. And then George Clooney came to my mind. I thought that was weird. So I don't know if something's going on with George Clooney's health. I'm not sensing necessarily he's passing away, but something's going on around George Clooney. And then I feel like we're going to hear about the passing of Paul Simon soon. Now, I said this earlier, but I just want to elaborate on this. I saw a big fire at the White House. I feel like this is caused from the sky, too. So are they doing it on purpose? When is this, spirits? Could be November. Wouldn't surprise me in November. Excuse me. Spirit doesn't always give timelines. But it looks like the bubble top is on fire. Almost looks like the Capitol building, too. So there may actually even be a fire at the Capitol building. And this could also be symbolic. If I'm seeing two separate places on fire, this could be very symbolic to something burning in D.C. Like D.C.'s on fire. And that could be, again, literal, or it could be even metaphoric. The Spirit said the White House is literal. And I've been telling you for a long time, they've been wanting to get rid of, the Capitol building for a long time as a symbolic gesture of the Freemasons. I know it sounds crazy. It might sound a bit conspiratorial, but it's the truth. And look at what happened there, a few years back. The whole thing, the whole debacle craziness. So we're definitely in some amazing times that may appear to be a bit crazy to people. But we have to go through the crazy. We got to go through down these dark, bumpy roads in order to get to the smooth pavement and the sunshine that rises ahead. Good things will come out of this in the coming years. I know it's not looking like it because we're going to see more and more conflicts arising. More and more conflicts arising, especially in the Middle East. I feel like something else is being pulled into that. And if you think Iran and that's all done with, that is not done with. I have this strong feeling that Iran is working with others, especially with Turkey, on some type of counterattack on Israel in the future. It's a long plan, kind of like the October thing, October 7th. That was a very long orchestrated plan. I feel like they're doing another well-orchestrated plan. When they're going to launch it, not sure. Wouldn't surprise me that they do so around the holidays, like around Hanukkah or Christmas. So we'll have to keep our eyes out. Hold the whole Middle East in the ball of white light because they need it. And then we have the conflicts between Russia and Ukraine and the whole deadline that DT gives. And today's the 7th when I'm recording this. Hopefully I'll get this out today. And tomorrow's the deadline. And if you think that's all done and over with, and you think Russia's going to back off, they are not backing off. Not happening, especially means they have this whole thing going on with them, China, and Iran. So we've got to be aware. And if you remember, you might not, this just came to mind. I remember Spirit told us that they were orchestrating some type of an attack on America. That was over a year ago. Russia, China, Iran. Remember, Spirit said that Russia would pull out of it in the last minute. And China would not be happy. So we'll have to see. Hopefully that does not play out, friends. Hopefully that does not play out. And I think I'm going to just leave you with that for now. I got a lot more other predictions to bring you. I'm going to do a scrying event sometime before I head out on my sabbatical for 2 weeks. And I will see you again on Tuesday. And remember, please do hit that thumbs up love button for starters because it helps get this content out. Share it on your social media. Share it on all your pages. And if you're new here and you want to continue to get the accurate predictions, prophecy, truth, great meditations on this channel, then smash that subscribe, become a part of this awesome tribe. Big thank you to all the supporters who make this free content possible for everybody else. Whether you're just a regular subscriber to the channel, I appreciate you. The members that are monthly supporters down below on the YouTube platform, and the members of the Subscribe Star Awaken Your Spirit community, who all make this free content possible for everybody else. So I thank you with infinite love and gratitude. Also down below, you'll find the free newsletter, all my other social media links. Check out everything and recommended videos down below as well. So until the next time, friends, remember to be bold, be true, be kind, be you. Let your light shine ever so brightly. And have a beautiful rest of your day. Namaste and much love, friends. Much love.